discovered in the city itself. Rzeszów has a history that reaches as far back as 1354. The Subcarpathian region of Poland is a true blend of various traditions, cultures, and flavors that rose out of the natural landscape and local history. While in the region, we'll have a chance to try its everyday staple dishes and experience its finer tastes too. Following our walk through Subcarpathian Poland, we'll bring its flavors into our homes with a recipe for a savory Polish sour rice soup and Poland's iconic poppy seed cake. I can't wait to see and taste this part of Poland.
Funding for this program is provided by Polish and Slavic Federal Credit Union. Our credit union is more than a bank.
Baron Chocolatier.
LOT Polish Airlines offers non-stop flights from the United States to Europe via Poland or Hungary. Luggage, hot meals and drinks are all included. The in-flight entertainment system gives you access to a wide variety of movies and cartoons.
Be our guest. LOT Polish Airlines, a Star Alliance member.
Ernest Roost. Kitchens, wardrobes, interiors.
Welcome to Flavor of Poland. My name is Alexandra August, and I'm so excited to take you on a delicious journey through my native country. I'm a Polish-American actress, but I also love to eat and I love to cook. Growing up in the States, I was always asked questions about Poland's culture, its history, and most of all, of course, about its food. So I finally decided to take all of you from back home, back here to my first home, and introduce you to its true flavor. Welcome back to Flavor of Poland. Today we'll be taking a journey to Rzeszów. This is the largest city in the southeastern part of Poland, and it is the capital of the Subcarpathian region. With its proximity to the Carpathian mountain range, the area not only abounds in beautiful natural settings, boasting of expansive forests and parks, it also offers a lot of history and culture to explore. So let's have a look. Rzeszów is the beautiful, renovated capital of the Subcarpathian region of Poland. It's a city with a long history and rich tradition that date back to 1354. That is why the city and its region also boast of many important monuments and, I'm sure, a very interesting cuisine. It's also a place to which a few famous individuals trace their heritage, most notably composer Wojciech Kilar, Oscar winner Natalie Portman, and supermodel Ania Rubik. Let's explore the ancestral home of our famous friends. The most iconic and fascinating monuments include the Market Square, its beautiful town hall, and the 14th century parish church with a freestanding belfry dating back to the 15th century. The historic temple stands at the foot of the Old Town Promenade. The Market Square is closed in by charming tenement houses. Their current architectural form took shape gradually over time, beginning with the 17th century. Not immediately apparent when standing in the Old Town Square is an underground world nestled beneath the square and its beautiful tenement houses. These are the Rzeszów Cellars, a nearly 400-meter-long underground tourist route. Here, as far as 10 meters underground, visitors can explore the legendary past of the square and the city's dwellers. The undergrounds, which once served as shops, storage areas, production rooms, and shelters in times of turmoil, now house countless historic relics dating as far back as the Middle Ages. The Rzeszów Castle is one of the most iconic landmarks of the city. It was rebuilt between 1902 and 1906 on the grounds of an older castle of the House of Lubomirski. By the early 17th century, Mikołaj Spytko-Ligenza, then owner of Rzeszów, expanded it into a castle, and in 1637 it was obtained by the House of Lubomirski. After the early 20th century reconstruction, only the gatehouse and bastion fortifications remain from the original complex. The Lubomirski Summer Palace in Rzeszów is one of the most prized architectural objects of the city, which has survived to our present day. It underwent several reconstructions over the centuries. Though it didn't manage to keep its original architectural coat, nor its Baroque-style gardens which once stretched out around it, it still serves as a testament to the former splendor of the Lubomirski patronage. In the neighborhood of the Lubomirski Summer Palace, you can also witness one of the city's most beautiful attractions, a unique blend of light, water, and sound. The multimedia fountain in Rzeszów is a whole complex in which streams of water dance to the rhythm of music, while films are sometimes displayed on the water screen. Special shows held on Saturday evenings from May to October enjoy particularly big crowds and popularity. The Subcarpathian region of Poland is a true blend of various traditions, cultures, and flavors. This is the result of influences from various ethnic groups and national traditions. These cuisines existed here in parallel, blending and borrowing from one another, distinguishing the Subcarpathian menu from the other regions of Poland.
Szynk Rzeszowski is a place that calls back to local pre-war traditions. Szynk, in English, means taproom or tavern. As an interesting fact, prior to World War II, there were nearly 300 such taverns all over Rzeszów. I think I'll have a look inside to see if I can have a taste of the city's old traditions. With a history of over 300 taverns, it's no wonder that this place developed some of its own local beverages, right? I am drinking one of them right now. I hear that this is one of Szynk Rzeszowski's finest. Let's give it a try. Very lovely, refreshing, crisp, and the perfect thing to drink after a long walk through Rzeszów. I ordered a few of Szynk Rzeszowski's best local dishes. I have their take on the famous Polish sour rye soup, which is one of my favorite Polish dishes. Lovely. Now I'm going to be brave and try the kaszanka, which is a blood sausage with sautéed liver and onion. A very hearty dish. It's pretty spicy. Yum. Love it. Let's see, what's next? Studzienina, the traditional way of making Polish aspic, which is pig's feet. It's nice and soft. It's got a very delicate taste. We can also balance this with a little bit of lemon. Lastly, we've got Jewish-style herring, a popular dish all around Poland, and of course every region has their own take on it. I've got it served here with a cold salad. I've got raisins, pickles, onions, and mayo. A great dish to have with a cold mug of beer, or two, or three. It would be very difficult to finish all the food that's in front of me, but I have to say I'm very satisfied. I think I've had a pretty good sampling of the local dishes. I've also had a chance to try the local beverages, thankfully in moderate amounts, so I think I'm ready to continue our tour. I've made my way to a beautiful castle nestled in a picturesque and exotic park. I heard that the menu of the restaurant inside is a nod to some of the most exquisite culinary traditions of the Subcarpathian region, with a particularly rich offering of game meat. Let's check it out. Beata, I feel like a real princess being here at Dubiecko Castle. And I see we're set for a feast, quite an elegant feast. So where do we begin?
We start from wild boar and stag pate. It's very traditional and we are using products from our forest.
I'm excited to dig in, so smacznego.
Smacznego.
And what is this green powder?
It's spinach powder and cranberries jelly here.
Is the meat also local?
It's from the surrounding forest from this region.
So I take it that hunting is still a big tradition here in the Subcarpathian part of Poland.
That's right. A lot of people are coming here for hunting in this forests here around. The forests are very rich. What's this interesting in these old recipes that they were using fruits and game meat together. And it gives the great flavor and taste of these dishes.
Na zdrowie.
Na zdrowie.
All right, so tell me about this beautiful dish in front of us.
Another game meat, venison loin, served on old traditional way of baking bread. It's called proziaki.
Got carrot puree. I see there's more cranberries. We've got asparagus.
Venison was grilled and it's served with demi-glace sauce.
Unbelievable. They're very interesting in their taste, these proziaki. Baked in a firewood oven, these are a very interesting element of this dish. Proziaki are pretty soft, but at the same time have a crumbly consistency, and they're simple to make. They often substitute potatoes or rice or groats here in the Subcarpathian cuisine. And although they were a common dish of the peasant class, they were also very much enjoyed by the aristocracy. Pierogi. Now, it's always a surprise with pierogi, right? You can't always tell from the outside what's inside.
We have three kinds of pierogies. One with fallow deer meat, another with lentils and mushrooms, and with mile.
I love these pierogi in their original form, served with groats such as mile. I'm really glad that places like Dubiecko Castle and many others all around Poland are bringing back these old traditions. It's a much lighter taste. I'm sure you'd love it too. Dessert. I recognize this cake. Makowiec, right?
Yes, it's poppy seed cake.
Makowiec is almost like a bread, and then the poppy seed creamy filling in between makes it a sweet cake.
I remember that cake from my childhood, and it tastes delicious.
I have to say, yours is just as good as my grandmother's.
Okay.
The dining experience here at Dubiecko Castle has been just as fascinating as its history and its beautiful surroundings. I feel as if I've dined like a true Polish aristocrat. You should come here and have an experience like this yourself. Our exploration of Subcarpathian Poland is nearing an end. It was a day full of many tasty and visual impressions, but this is not where they end. Southeastern Poland is one of the most precious natural landscapes in Europe, abounding in numerous forests. Over 37% of the Subcarpathian landscape is covered in forests, most of which awe its visitors with massive age-old trees. I think a small hike through the majestic local landscape would be the perfect way to finish our visit to the beautiful Subcarpathian region of Poland. Let's go for a walk, shall we? Now, I think we should try and recreate a few of the recipes from the region. Today, we'll make the iconic Polish sour rye soup, which is one of my all-time favorite Polish dishes. Rzeszów and its region are quite famous for its sour rye soup, so I think we should give it a try. After our soup, we'll try our hand at the Polish poppy seed cake, makowiec. It's a dessert that's deeply ingrained into Polish culture and tradition. We'll have to start a few days in advance because the soup begins with the making of a sour rye starter. So what we'll need for that is a medium-sized glass container with 4 cups of warm water. You'll want it to be just a little bit warmer than room temperature. We'll also need 4 heaping tablespoons of rye flour, 3 cloves of garlic, and then we'll need 5 balls of allspice, 7 balls of juniper, and 2 bay leaves. We'll add the rye flour to our water first. Next, we'll add in 3 cloves of garlic. Garlic is a natural antibiotic, so this starter has some health benefits as well. Not to mention, it's going to be full of probiotics, so it's a nice and healthy soup. And then finally, we'll add in our spices and our laurel leaf. We'll give this a stir. You'll want to use a wooden spoon. Ideally, you can also use a plastic spoon, but definitely don't use a metal one because metal kills bacteria. So if you use a metal spoon, your starter won't ferment. So give that a good mix. I'm going to just place my lid over the top, but I'm not going to close it because this does need some access to air. If your container doesn't have a lid, that's okay. You can also use a piece of gauze or a piece of fabric. We'll set this container aside for about 3 to 5 days and let the fermentation process take place. After that, we'll strain the liquid out of the container and place it into the fridge and store it until we're ready to make our soup. The next step of making our sour rye soup is the making of a stock. we'll need a few fresh vegetables, 2 rather large carrots, 1 small parsley root without the leaves. We'll need a spring pour, and then we'll need a small celery root. We'll also be using a handful of dried mushrooms, 2 laurel leaves, and 3 to 4 balls of allspice. We'll also be using 1 full white onion, which we'll throw into our pot and char first, and then after that we'll cover it with 12 cups of water and add in all the other ingredients. We'll combine all of that in our pot and let it come to a boil, and then we'll let it simmer for about an hour. About 15 minutes before our stock is finished, we'll remove all of the vegetables and we'll add in our meat. We're going to be using 2 full white sausages and then about a 1.5 piece of smoked sausage and 2 slices of bacon. This is going to be a really nice savory soup. I've already prepared my stock and my meat is about finished, so I'm gonna take it out and see if it's done. Yep, I think it looks good. See how it tastes. It's hot, but it's good and ready. What we'll need next is 3 teaspoons of marjoram leaves. We'll need a very small handful of fresh thyme leaves, 2 cloves of garlic, and a teaspoon of cumin. So we're gonna toss that into our pot. Great, and then we'll give it a stir. So many aromas in here. Next, we'll take half a cup of cream and pour it over into a bowl for mixing. And we'll take 3 tablespoons of rye flour, the same flour that we used for our starter earlier. And we'll whisk that together. And you want to make sure to do this very thoroughly because it needs to be smooth. If it's not, it'll leave flakes in our soup and we don't want that. We'll throw that into our pot. And now we'll come back to that starter that we made earlier. I prepared a batch in advance, so I'm going to take 3/4 cups of that and pour that into my soup as well. Now our soup is gonna have that nice sour taste. And now we'll take fresh horseradish, finely grated. I'm going to use about 1.5 tablespoons here. Okay. We'll take some parsley leaves. I have about 6 or 7 stems here, and we're gonna chop them. This is going to add a little bit of freshness to everything else in here. Now we'll just add a little bit of salt and then just a bit of pepper. Perfect. We've got everything we need in here, but let's give it a quick try. Unbelievable. This is an incredibly savory and warming soup. This is why it's one of my favorite Polish dishes. So now we'll begin making our dessert, the poppy seed cake, which again is called makowiec in Polish. What we'll need to make our cake is 4 cups of flour. You're going to need 1 cup of spelt grain flour. Spelt grain, by the way, is an ancient grain with a very digestible form of gluten, so it's very healthy and very rich. And then you'll also need 3 additional cups of wheat flour. I've combined all that in my bowl here. You'll also need some fresh yeast, 2 ounces of fresh yeast. You'll need 1 cup of sugar. You'll need a pound of ground poppy seeds with nuts and raisins, which has been cooked in milk. This is something you can find in a can at your regular grocery store. And you'll need 1 cup of warm milk. You'll need 2 tablespoons of butter, a teaspoon of salt, and 4 egg yolks. What we'll do first is we'll take our 2 ounces of fresh yeast and we'll crumble it into a bowl. 1 tablespoon of our sugar, and we'll throw that in over the yeast. So now I'm going to crumble the sugar together with the yeast and kind of roll it all together in your bowl to make sure it's mixed in well. Okay, and then next, we're going to take just half a cup of milk, pour that into a small saucepan. Now we're going to let that heat for a second, and then we'll pour it over into our bowl with the yeast and sugar. We'll take 3 tablespoons of our mixed flours here. So we'll give this a good mix, and then once we're done with that, we'll cover our bowl with a kitchen cloth and set it aside to rest for about 30 minutes. Now we'll take the remainder of our milk and we'll pour that into our saucepan as well. We'll take the remainder of our sugar. And then finally our 2 tablespoons of butter. And then we'll mix all this together. And we'll come back to our starter, which is ready. And we'll pour in our egg yolks and give this a mix as well. We'll check on our milk. So we'll pour that into the bowl. We'll begin adding our flour, 1 tablespoon at a time. For this, we're going to use our hands and start forming the dough. You'll know that the dough is ready when it easily comes off the edges of your bowl and off your hand. You might want to keep a little bit of extra flour on hand while you do this because it'll help to form the dough. So what we'll do now is we'll cover our bowl with a kitchen cloth again, and then we'll set it aside, and we'll want it to grow twice its size. That should take anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes. It kind of depends on the temperature of your kitchen, so just keep an eye on it. Our dough is ready. It's grown twice its size, so we can begin rolling it out. Okay, I think that looks good. So now we'll take our baking pan here and we'll place it over our dough so that we can measure how much of it we need to cut off. Okay, great. I'm gonna take a knife and cut along the edges right next to the pan. And now we'll come back to our poppy seeds. So we'll take the paste and place it onto our dough. And then we're gonna coat the dough evenly with our poppy seed paste. So you wanna make sure that you're getting a pretty thick coat and that you're covering the entire surface of the dough. Okay, now I'm just gonna wet my hands a bit and then pat down the rest to smooth it out. And I'll go ahead and roll the cake. And you wanna make sure that you're rolling it tight. Okay, great. Now we'll transfer this over into our baking pan and we'll let it sit for another 30 minutes because we want our dough to rise again. After that, we'll place it in the oven for 35 minutes and you want your oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Our makowiec is done. I've let it sit and cool, so we know it's ready to decorate. The way that I've prepared this glaze is I've taken 7 ounces of powdered sugar, 5 tablespoons of water, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and I've whisked all that together until it turned into a nice and smooth consistency. So I'm going to take a tablespoon, and I'm just going to pour the glaze over the cake. The lemon flavor in this glaze is going to be an amazing complement to the poppy seed flavor. As a special finishing touch, we'll add some petals of poppy flower. All right, let's give our dishes a try. I'm gonna pour my sour rye soup over into a bowl. As you look at all the ingredients we have in here, we've got boiled egg, we've got white sausage, smoked sausage, bacon, marjoram leaves, allspice, horseradish. Of course, if you're eating sour rye soup, you have to have some rye bread to go along with it, right? The best way to eat it is to dip it into your soup. Like I said before, the soup makes for a full meal. With the sausage, the egg, and the bread, you'll fill up pretty quick. But before I get too full, let's move on to our dessert and see how it turned out. I can already see that the dough is nice and soft. It just melts in your mouth. The poppy seed in here is a very characteristic taste. It's a very unique dessert. Today we've had a chance to make two iconic dishes of the Subcarpathian region of Poland, but these are also iconic national Polish dishes. So I'm glad I've learned how to make them and that I've added them to my home menu. I hope you've given them a try as well, and I hope they taste just as great as mine do. As they say in Polish, smacznego. If you remember, that means enjoy in Polish. So I'll see you in the next episode of Flavor of Poland.